The Souls game's most unique and noticeable features are their bosses. And in this video, I'm going to be listing my personal top 10 best bosses in the Souls series. If you're new, I wouldn't mind a like and perhaps a subscription. And without further ado, let's get into the video. First off, before we get into the top 10, I have 3 honorable mentions. The first one is Malekith. It's a very fun boss fight, and without a doubt, one of the most unique bosses in the series. His attacks sometimes are delayed fast. Every attack, you never know what he's going to do. He's also kind of, in a sort, a glass cannon. He does high damage, he has that life drain effect, but he doesn't have too much HP, which makes it a very risky yet fun fight. The second honorable mention is Artorias. This is the fight where you kind of have a feel for the guy. He's been corrupted by the abyss and he has no other choice but to fight you, hoping you won't hurt his dog. These are one of those fights where you always learn something when you die. So when you die, you're eager to come back and improve upon what you just messed up on. And a lot of bosses, it kind of seems like a chore to run back and retry it all again, but this boss fight is the opposite of that. The last honorable mention is the Fume Knight. These are one of these fights where just in the fight, you have such a rush of adrenaline, you're so hyped for this fight, and you're also so scared. It also has the option to have it so you heal him if you don't get rid of that, which, if you're looking for a challenge, is the perfect thing to do. This boss fight is very hard, but for all the right reasons. He mixes it up with attacks, he has buffs, he doesn't do anything BS or anything that seems unfair. Now, it's for the 10th spot, which I personally give it to the Demon Princes. This fight is basically like a new and renovated Orstein and Smo. Now, depending on which one you kill first, you will get a different second phase boss fight. Just exactly like Orstein and Smo. They also have different moves, and they also look different, and you can tell them apart from each other at the start. One plays passive, while the other one plays a lot more aggressive, even shooting dark toxins at you. And these are one of those fights where from the outside, or after your first attempt or two, it just seems so unfair and so hard, but once you get into it, you're like, this is really fun, this is fair, this is just a great boss fight. And in the number 10th spot is surprisingly a Dark Souls 2 boss, which is Sir Alone, and he will be the only Dark Souls 2 boss making the list. The first great thing about this boss fight is just the arena. I know it's not technically part of the boss fight, but just having this atmosphere makes the boss fight feel and act out so much better. But the arena is not the only great thing about this boss fight. His attacks are so cinematic, they look so flawless just like they're in a movie. And he has that one special unique attack where he jumps, like he dashes towards you and lifts you up with this drain thing, and not only does it's a cool attack that damages you, it also buffs him, infusing his weapon with bleed. Now in hindsight, he's kind of an average boss fight, but the reason it kind of sticks out to me is it's kind of like a duel. It's kind of like a 1v1 like Artorias is. He's not like a giant boss with a really fancy, cool like projectiles or movesets. He's similar to size and he's similar to speed, similar in strength, so it's kind of just like a honorable you and him, just 1v1. The last great thing about this guy is he also has that really cool death animation where if you kill him without even getting a hit, he'll seppuku himself. For the number 8th spot, you guys knew this was going to be somewhere on the list, and it is Orstein and Smo. Arguably the best duo boss fight in the series. This boss fight, they complement each other like yin and yang. Orstein is very aggravated, he's very fast, he's very quick and agile, where Smo, he hits harder, but he's a lot slower and he's a lot more passive. Which leads to a lot more thrilling, fast-paced, and adrenaline boss fight, but also more of a strategic boss fight, knowing where you have to go, how much you have to attack, how passive you have to play. And the last great thing about this boss fight is just like the Twin Princes, or Demon Princes, whoever is saved for last will be the one who gets buffed and will be the second phase. And it's just a gank boss fight that feels fair and fun. Now in 7th place, thinking about it beforehand, I didn't really enjoy this boss fight that much, but now thinking about it in hindsight and overviewing it, it was a pretty thought out and pretty well planned boss. And that is Mohg, the Lord of Blood. Now beforehand, to me, this kind of just seemed like a simple regular boss, so I thought about he had this unique life drain thing where he'd shove his spear in the air and it'd drain you and give you blood loss. This was kind of another strategical element to this fight where you get rewarded by exploring. If you found that shackle for him, that would prevent that whole thing. Or you could just come in there, strategize, bring some more heals, bring some faith spells. And he doesn't do anything else that special, but just like the way the fight plays out, his attacks, the area, everything about that fight is just slightly above average besides that. Now coming in at the number 6 spot is a Sekiro boss, and that is Owl. I'm kind of considering like the one you fight in Harada Estate and the one you fight on top of the tower. I'm kind of just considering them the same thing. But yeah, this boss fight is so fun. And usually when I struggle on boss fights, I rage, I give up, and I kind of treat it like a chore, but not this one. This boss fight took me over 100 tries, and every time I felt like I learned something new, and I wanted to come back at it again, each and every single time. I mean, his bird move is just so cool, and knowing that you're fighting the guy that adopted you is so cool too. I mean, this fight is just so unique. He has taught you every single move you know, so he's doing tons of things that you do in game that no other enemy or boss fight has quite done. So it's kind of like a trick. It's kind of like something super new and refreshing. Now for the number 5. This is where we're getting to the big boys. Number 5 is kind of a hot take for me. I don't think a lot of people will agree on this, but I'm putting Manus. Manus is a boss fight that doesn't really fit into Dark Souls Remastered. It's something you probably find in DS3 or Bloodborne, but in my opinion, I'm taking that as a positive. It is so unique and so refreshing to fight a boss like that every once in a while. Not only is he super hard, he's super fun, super interesting, he is everything that you have not seen in the game yet. He's one of those fights that keep catching you surprised, and if you find that dark magic to be super annoying and that's not your style, there is literally a pendant in the game where you just deflect all that stuff. And that's the only one part about it that could be considered annoying. Everything else that this guy does is super cool, super fun, and super chaotic, which is a great thing if it's not a gank boss. And in the number 4th spot is Lwig from Bloodborne. Now this fight, coming into it, I thought it would be one of those big bosses where they hit, you run away, you come back and hit, but it plays out like a small boss fight where you're interacting with it. I mean, it's obviously a very fun fight, but it's also a very intimidating fight. Like, this boss is so ugly and so nasty for no reason. I still don't even know what the fuck this thing is. And it obviously has a very great second phase, but I also think the first phase too plays out flawlessly. Now for my number 3 spot, it goes to a boss from Sekiro, and that is Gonitro. And this boss fight is the learning curve. This is where you either got it or you don't. This is a major checkup of the game to see what all you've learned and put it into here. He is a great boss, and for having 3 phases, I thought this was going to get repetitive, it was going to feel unfair, but it doesn't. Each phase is unique and it feels great, especially that lightning phase where you can jump up and throw that lightning back at him. I mean, not only does this boss fight play perfectly and flawlessly, just the aura and the atmosphere of this fight being on top of the giant castle and whatnot. So I think this is a very clear and obvious 3rd place. And my second favorite boss of the Soul series is Melina, the goddess of rot from Elden Ring. This boss is a definition of high risk, high reward. If you go up to her and try to hit her with a nice old giant swing and you're able to stun lock her, she is absolutely fucked. You get so much damage and maybe even half her health. But if you miss, she'll come right back at you, swinging, probably killing you in 2 shots, if not replenishing almost all of her health back. And that's just her first phase. In the second phase, I was in shock. Having all these crazy ass moves where she jumps up in the air and phantoms of her come gliding at you, the giant butterfly thing. Every single move she did was absolutely fucking crazy. It was fun, it was unique, it was dangerous, but if you were able to dodge that shit and hit her back, it was high reward. And I mean, for being a rot boss fight, you'd think this boss fight would just be annoying, but it's one of the funnest boss fights in the game, and the rot just plays such a great factor in this boss fight. Without a doubt, second best boss in the Soul series, such a fun fight. And the number 1 spot goes to Gail from DS3. In my personal opinion, he isn't the boss that I had the funnest time with. I don't think he was the funnest boss to fight, but I do think overall it is the best boss. I mean, this isn't even my style of boss fights that I like, yet I still had a very fun time. This boss fight is so chaotic, there's so many things that are happening, but it's a one-on-one, and no matter what, it still feels fair. There's lightning striking down at you, there's souls from him flying at you, there's him jumping at you while fucking jizzing on you with his crossbow. Everything is happening in this boss fight, and I'm down, and I'm happy with every single thing happening here. And not only is he super fun, but he's super hard, which means you will die a lot, and you will get to keep fighting this guy, and keep improving, which is the perfect thing, especially for me, since I died to this boss a lot. And I kept getting to fight him. It's a super fun fight. I think he definitely deserves number 1 spot. Thank you guys so much for watching, and bye.